Hello guys, what a beautiful day. It could be the British countryside too, but actually this is Kentucky. It's raining all day and at least it's windy. So anyhow, it's time to hide in the garage and work on something. Looks like we got several options, but today we're gonna work on this little Bugeye Sprite. I built this one, I don't even know how many years ago, and I built it for my friend, and then he for some reason just didn't want it, so it ended up with me. So it's running, however there's no charging on it. There's no charging. It has the original Lucas voltage regulator and a nice Moss Motors generator, but it's just not working. I don't know why. Maybe because it's Lucas. But I got one of these, not the fuzzball, but this thing. It just came from England. It's called a Dynamator. If you can see this one, this is for the positive earth, and this looks like a dynamo in European English, but it's actually an alternator if you look inside. So there are several GM products have the same kind of unit already available, but this one actually has the ref counter exit on the back, which I haven't removed yet, but we'll work on it, because this thing has the ref counter coming out from the end. So it's made for this car. I'm really happy about it, and it's a one wire or maybe two wires deal. So we're gonna change that today and make this little car have electrical charge again. This one is a restoration battery. You can see that with the Lucas logo on it. It's not actually a Lucas thing, it's just a copy of it, and it doesn't have any acid in it. And I got these little clamps from Europe where you can quickly disconnect it if you have any kind of trouble, which is quite possible with the Lucas system. And I got this gigantic carburetor on it, but I'm not smart enough to make it run well. I haven't really talked to anybody who was able to run a car well with this kind of carburetor, so I just have to admit that I'm just not good enough for this. So I'm planning on putting on a supercharger. But for a supercharger, they want to put a very ugly modern alternator on it, and I just refuse to do that. So I think I'm just gonna have this thing on. And then once I have that on, maybe at a later date I can add a supercharger system on it. So let's get to work. Let's start removing this unit first. First we start by removing the ref counter. It has that big nut on the end. I'm gonna remove that and then compare it with a new part to see if it actually fits on it, or we'll be able to attach it to it. Well, the nut came off. It came off. Look at this. That's how it looks like. Gotta be careful with this thermometer hose or pipe or something, because it has a gas in it, so you shouldn't pinch it. Just gently kind of take it away from the way where we're doing stuff. And now I can remove the electrical connectors in the back. I have two wires went to the back, which I removed. Again, the battery connector is disconnected to make sure we don't cause any damage. I took the nuts off of these bolts. One is longer, the other one is shorter. I took off the bolt from here, and I loosened up the bolt at the very bottom for the tensioner. And now we can pull the whole thing out. There it is. Now we can compare the two. This is the original one that just came out. That's the new one. Looks like it's just a little bit more fat, but I don't think anybody cares. But it looks like the properties looks exactly like. Looks like there is this key in it, so we're gonna take this one off and move this over here first. Yeah, before we start moving forward, I wanted to check this back part, and it looks like it's gonna work. Looks like there's a thread on it full of grease. I don't even go further. Well, I have this puller, what I bought for my Mercedes, to change the rear bearings in it. But it works really nicely here too, so look at this. It comes right off. Yep, and that's it. Ta-da! This is how this puller set looks like in case you want to buy one. I think you can find it on eBay. I don't know what its number is or how to find it, but maybe you can type in bearing puller, and it comes up. In order not to lose the key, I put a little shrink wrap on it, so in the future I can use it, or someone else might can, whoever wants it, so the key wouldn't get lost. That's the idea behind it. I like this torch lighter, works really well. So here's the new piece, and the key is in there, what came with it, kind of loose a little, so we're gonna find where the key is and simply just gonna push it up. It went on by hand. If it doesn't go on by hand, you're doing something wrong, so make sure that little key is absolutely flat and mate with this, and then it's by hand you can push this on. So now I got the nut on it and the washer on it. Now we're gonna just tighten this up. There we go. The Dynamator is ready to install. I got this limited little schematics, so let's start with this. It says if I have a positive earth, I need to connect it as it shows here. So I figured out which one is which. There is the relay what was supplied, so the only thing I need to do is to cut the line where the light bulb getting its power from, and then include this relay in it, and then put this one onto the body of the car. Once that one is sorted out, now we're going to the harder point. So here's the lid from my voltage regulator. You can see it starts with a A1, A, F, D, E. The E is not used apparently. So there's a chart on it, like how is it connected in the car right now. And that's how it is actually connected. So as you see on the D, there's a large and a small wire going. There's a large and a small wire going, and there is the light, and then the other importance is the A1, A and F. So anyhow, this voltage regulator will not going to be used. So what I come up with is I'm going to have to put the A1, the A and the D all together, and that's going to go to the large connector on the Dynamator. And on the F and D, there should be the D small. The D large goes this way, the D small goes here, and then it's gonna be connected to the light, and then go to the small, like just like here. I want to use the original harness as much as possible. So that was took a little thinking, but that's what I come up with. The positive is a positive earth car, so the positive will go here, the negative will come here, of course. You can see the ignition key and the lighting switch, which I don't know, I don't really care about that part. So the lighting switches goes into the first one, which is the A1. On the other one you can see it like right there, so that has to be connected. The A1, it has two wires, there still remains two wires, and it's all gonna be connected to one over here. The A1, A and D large will be connected to one, and then it's gonna go to the large on the Dynamator. If it's not confusing enough, then figure out on your own, but that's what I came up with. We'll see how can we make that happen in the car. It's not a simple thing. If you look at this one, is different as the book says. So I just don't know which one is the correct one, but I assume the book is. But I finally figured out which one was which, so which cable is which, and based on that, I came up with this. So this is an original, well, reproduction, but original wire harness. So I labeled up every one of them. So the A1, the A, the D large, and the A to the fuse box, they all go together, and then the D small, what goes down to the unit, like right here, it's like it's not even attached right now, this one, and the light, the F, will go together. So this is what I'm gonna do, and looks like it's gonna work out that way. The next question is, how am I gonna make sense out of this jungle here? So what I figured out, I'm gonna use the original Austin Healey part, which used for connectors. That's how it looks like. I can actually put 4 of these wires together and connect them that way. There are the little pieces at the end, what I need to just solder on the end of the wires, and then plug all of them together. So I got 2 of them for the yellow wires, what goes together, and 4 of them for the other big wires. So that's what's coming up next. I'm gonna solder together all these things and make it happen that way. You can see this is how it works. You push this fitting through, you can push the wire through the fitting actually, and then solder just the end tip of it, and then you can cut off the excess, and then it's installed, and then you can just plug it into that little plug what I figured out. On these larger wires I run into a little problem because the hole at the end of this is not big enough for the large wires. So I drilled a little hole into this wood piece, fill it up with solder, and then I push this in and then solder it in that way. You can see that. And then this way the wood is not dissipating the heat, so it's basically an insulator, and I can solder it really well with that. You can see it here. Well, here is the finished product, I could say. And now I can concentrate on putting the new Dynamator on it and connect these two other wires, which I need to work out the connectors for. Yeah, this Dynamator requires two different sizes of connectors. I found this one, I have not found this one. So what I'm thinking, I'm just gonna cut this off, and then I'm gonna use the old terminal to put that on. I find a nice little lock nut and then two washers, and that's gonna do the job. So I'm just sawing this thing off. It's probably gonna break off in a minute, and then I'm gonna need this one. You can see I cut the old round one off and I put the nice big flat one on, what this one requires, with a little insulation on it, and then the other one stays the same. When I put this here, there's a little bit of clearance there on that side, so I'm gonna have to release those two bolts holding the back bracket in order to make sure that it fits nice and it's not gonna bend the new unit what I just got. All the bolts are on, this one, this one, this one, and everything is still loose. So next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tighten these ones up a little bit more, and then I'm gonna set the tension on it, and then tighten up the last two little bolts down there where I had to loosen up to make sure it's all sit nicely. For the older guys, if you watch this show, I apologize. I might go into too many details here, which might be obvious to you, but might not be obvious to someone who didn't grow up fixing stuff. So here's the next step. As I already almost tightened all these up, but the whole thing is still moving, but now it's really, really tight everywhere. So now I can actually put some pressure on this with a tool to hold it up, and then I'm gonna tighten up the bolts on the bottom, and that will set up the tension on the belt. And after that I can tighten this, and the two other ones while holding it to the block. I was able to put this big wrench in between the block and the Dynamator, and actually was able to pull on it, and that's how I was able to set up the tension on the belt. And I tightened up the very bottom one first, then this one up front. And when I was tightening up the front one, the rear one actually settled where it wants to be. And then I tightened this one up, and then I tightened the two bolts what goes into the block. So therefore it's not under pressure. The whole two plates are not under pressure. So now that it's finished, now I can hook up the wires on it. Now that we have the electrical connectors connected, now we're gonna attach the rev counter. It's not an RPM gauge, it's a rev counter because it's mechanical. This counts the revolutions what the this Dynamator makes. So we pushed it in, and now we're putting that big nut and screw it on. You can see there is a gear reduction on it, and then there goes this what do you call that? Ooh, this cable what goes into the RPM gauge. You can see that to screw in this nut is gonna get harder and harder, but you're not supposed to over tighten it. The way you can see it's not over tightened, you can see how much this thing moves in and out, and once it barely moves any, that's where it's supposed to be. So just you're gonna have to tighten it up and make sure this thing is not loose anymore. I was using a big 1-inch wrench to tighten this up. You gotta be careful because the terminal is right underneath, so make sure you don't hit it when you tighten it. But now we got everything is done, so we got connected the little one. By the way I connected it is that at first I put a washer on it, then I put this round terminal, then another washer, lock washer nut. So now that we have this whole thing is tightened and ready to try out, but not quite yet. We still got one more component what the manual goes for, and that's that relay. So now we got to move inside the cockpit, and then we try to set up the light, make sure that light works correctly with this relay. Now we got to the point where I had to pull out my yoga mat. Not to do yoga on it, but to go under the dash and find those damn wires what I need to work on. So looks like here's a, well, if I can show it to you, here's a white one and here's a yellow one what I need to have working on. I give up on this with the camera, but I found which one goes to the ignition light. One is white, one is yellow. I looked at the chart, and looks like the yellow one is coming from the unit, and then there is the light, and the white one is the ignition plus. So I got to put this little relay, which is here. So I got to do two things: cut this white wire and put one here, one there, and then also have to ground one of this. So this one has to go to the body, and then this one 87, this is the 87 goes here, and then the 85, yeah, and that one goes here. So now I just gotta make it all happen. So I'm gonna find some terminals, wires, and get to it. Everything is hooked up. Now see if we're gonna blow up something. Let's see if the battery, the nice fake Lucas battery, will make a spark when I attach this. Nope, no spark. Well, let's see what else we got. Let's see if I put it on ignition, will we blow up or not? Well, ignition on, and the light is not on. Well, interesting. I got to investigate that. We got another light on, which is not supposed to be on, but oh well. Well, I gotta see if that bulb is working in that ignition. Well, this looks a little bit dark for me, so that might be a reason for the season. So back to the Austin Healey box and check it if I have another one. Finally, it's a nice evening outside. It's actually, the sun came out, but anyhow, here's my Healey box. And in the Healey box I have a whole bunch of spare parts, and I got a bag worth of this. So looks like what's on the car is melted. The color code is not correct, but it will be fine. I'm gonna put that on. Well, looks like I think I fixed it. Ah, and it came on. The light is on. Haha. Ignition off. Okay, now I just need to put it back into the instrument. And the final try. Ignition on. And the little thing is actually lit up. I'm not sure you can see it on the screen, but it's lit up. That's nice. So now I can try to start it, see if actually got a charge. Well, let's try to start the thing. Ignition on, fuel pump on, choke, starter. Yep, I'm not good enough for this carburetor. The light is extinguished. Perfect. We got oil pressure too. Now it's running. And the RPM gauge is working too. Now we just gotta measure voltage. This looks perfect. Look at that.